Take two.
Today we're with Bill Reichert of Garage Technology Ventures. And Bill is the managing partner, managing director of the company. And I saw you give a wonderful lecture workshop to the Israeli group the other day where you did talk about pitching. So for the international viewers of this interview, what for you, if a group comes in and gives a pitch, what are really the 3 or 4 things that have to be in that first initial pitch?
Thank you, Angelika. Happy to be with you today. And yes, we listen to a lot of pitches by American entrepreneurs, by international entrepreneurs, and a few tips that we would encourage everybody to focus on when they're preparing their pitches and walking in and giving their pitches. The first thing, one of the biggest challenges for investors is to make sure at the beginning we understand what it is you're talking about. So explain what your business is and what you're doing clearly and simply. And the example that I like to give is, imagine that the Wall Street Journal or a business magazine is talking about your company. How would they describe what your company does in that first paragraph? And it's not about loading it up with a bunch of superlatives and adjectives about how you're going to change the world. It's about simply explaining what it is that you do. So that's the first thing, so we all know what the context is. Then what you need to do is say something that makes us want to pay attention. So the second thing is what we call getting to wow. You have to say something that makes us say, wow, that's really interesting. I want to know more about what it is you're doing. That's an amazing claim or statement about what it is you can do that nobody else in the world can do.
In a simple phrase.
In a simple, clear, and credible phrase, right? So, we can do this 10 times faster, or we can do this at 10% the cost of the current state-of-the-art brand name, whatever it is, right? Or something that makes us say, wow, that, fits within the realm of the possibility of physics, right? So that's the second thing, make us go, wow. The third thing then is add to the credibility, your credibility, by explaining to us what your secret sauce is in very simple, clear terms. The reason we can do this, the reason we're 10 times faster, is we have taken an approach different from everyone else that enables us to do this and this. And that was our big insight, and that's our intellectual property, and it happens that we're the only team on the planet that has the expertise to do that. So that number 3 is, what's the secret here? What is it about what you've done and what you can do that makes you guys special and gives credibility to your wow claim? And then the fourth thing is really to make it clear to us how you're different from everybody else who comes into our conference room who makes similar claims. Usually what we're looking for is a sentence that begins with something like, unlike this company and this company, we can do this, this, and this. So it's a simple a clarification of what gives you a competitive advantage and a sustainable advantage versus all the other players over some period of time. So those are the 4 things that we want to focus on.
And in this whole element of presentation, let's say they have a complicated technology. Let's say they don't. Let's say it's an easy one. How important is storytelling in this whole pitch?
So what we found is there are a lot of circumstances where it's much easier to tell the story or to explain the value proposition by what you might call storytelling. We recommend that the way you tell the story is perhaps a straightforward use case, the most typical example of how someone would use or how your technology would be used or service would be used. So that would be, say, an explanation that would start with, imagine if you could do this, this, and this. And so you then get your audience, your investors, picturing a use case that enables us to say, oh, now I see how the fact that you're 10 times faster would operate in a particular setting and would be a benefit to a particular user. And it enables you to pull together these elements in a way that's much more effective than trying to use just bunches of descriptors.
And one of the other questions that I wanted to ask you is about, before the last one, is if a company comes here with international entrepreneurs, what are some of the communications, marketing strategies they really have to make sure they do to get their companies known?
Yeah, well, okay, to get their companies known or to be effective in plugging in to the Valley? What's the question there?
Probably to get their companies known.
Okay.
And maybe that's by plugging into the Valley.
Yeah.
I mean, where it is.
Well, so, there are a lot of international teams that come here for two reasons. One, they want to trade to raise money, and the other is they want to try to get customers. So, either way, the way that I think is most effective for companies to be effective in this environment is first do your homework and know kind of who the players are and what the players are in the region. You don't want to give the appearance that you are just here for a week and you're trying to cram all of this networking into a week, because for most people, it's kind of like a one-night stand. I mean, you're not going to invest much time in a team that's just dropping in and then leaving. You need to create the impression that you are here. You need to create the impression that you are not simply from another place visiting, but rather you are here and you are there and you are going to be global. So we want, in order for you to have an effect with people that you're networking with, either for the purpose of building partnerships or customers or investment, you have to create a strong sense that you're here to stay and that you will be a sustaining, reliable partner at some level. So that's what I encourage. And so what that means is, don't emphasize the fact that you came in on Sunday and you're leaving on Saturday and you're staying, at the Marriott down the street. Create the impression without lying, of course.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The whole thing is no lying. No.
So create the impression that you are indeed now part of this community, and then people will invest in getting to know you and
the relationship as well as the company.
And the relationship building. Right.
Last question. So, is there any one pitch that stands out in your mind that was either fabulous or really awful?
That's a really unfair question, and
so you have to name the people.
Understood. Well, it's I guess there's a category of pitch that we hear frequently.
Okay, great.
That I think is sort of the most helpful answer to this question.
Okay, exactly.
Which is to say, there's one in particular that stands out in this category, which was an Israeli team, as it turns out. It was an Israeli team, and it was clear that they had all been in some branch of the Israeli Defense Forces, and they were so confident and so aggressive about the unique power of their technology. And the irony was, they knew their technology so well that it just sort of blew past everyone in the room. It was hard for us to absorb it. It was such an overwhelmingly powerful presentation. And we've had variations on that theme, where you have a team that is so excited about their technology, and they're so passionate, and they're so sure that their technology is going to change the world, that they lose track of the fact that we've just had 10 different companies come in with different technologies from entirely different parts of the technology ecosystem, using different acronyms and different terms and different figures of merit, that our ability to absorb your excitement about your technology is somewhat challenged, and it goes back to my original point,
Yeah.
which is get us to a point where we understand what you're talking about simply, and we can then develop our understanding of what's exciting about your business. So it's not either about sort of the worst presentation or the best presentation. Mm-hmm. It's about this category of presentation where you have these teams you really want to believe because they're so passionate, they're so smart, they're so intense, but you cannot connect with them at all because they seem to be of such a different world. And that's not particularly related to them not being, Americans.
Right,
it's more
right.
because, we sometimes refer to the engineer to human ratio in various meetings, right? As a way of, sort of pointing out that there may be an imbalance in the discussion. So that's an issue that that a lot of investors have and a lot of people have around intense and passionate entrepreneurs who happen to be engineers.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thanks.
My pleasure.
Great.